The officer comes and wakes me up 5-something, in the morning and says, you need to report to lieutenant's office. Well, when they tell you to report to lieutenant's office, that means you're going to the hole. They said, bring your ID. So I was like, all right. So I go to lieutenant's office. I bring my ID, and they say, you're going to the hole. I was like, all right. I knew it. I figured it was just had something to do with this dude. So I go to the hole, and they won't tell me why I'm there. So like 3 days later, they come and they tell me, hey, come with us. So I was like, where am I going? They're like, just come with us. So they take me to R&D. R&D is like the area where you either come into the prison or you leave the prison, right? So it's like the area where they process you in or out. So they put me in there, and I see there's 3 guys with riot gear on, all black riot gear, helmets, everything, three officers. I'm like, oh my God, what in the hell is going on? And so they're like, come with us. The process, but those dudes are not talking to me. They're not saying a single word to me. And I say, what's this all about? He just clenches his teeth and says, it's the order of the day. I'm like, huh. So they take me out of the prison, put me into they got a white van out there. Now listen, normally when they transport you in a bus. Here they're transporting in my own van, and they've got dudes surrounding it with machine guns, also in black body armor and stuff like that, helmets and stuff like that. They put me into this van, and I get into the van, and there's another guy in there. There's an old white guy. And I say to him, where'd you come from? He says, they just got me from across the street from the penitentiary. Because Allenwood, there's the medium there, and then there's also a high. So he says, I was at the high. They just came and got me, the same thing. And he's speaking with an accent, right? So I say, I said, where are they taking us? He says, I think they're taking us to execute us. He was just joking. So I say, where are you from? He says, I'm from Europe. I said, where in Europe? He says, you wouldn't know it. I said, maybe I would know it. Where are you from? He says, Croatia. I said, yes, dobar, hey. So I start speaking to him in Bosnian, which is the same thing as Croatian. And he's like totally flabbergasted. He's like, who are you? I'm like, who are you? So anyway, he and I we wound up becoming great friends. But anyway, where they're taking us. Okay. So they take us, they drive us. They got like different escort cars and all this. They're taking us they take us to Lewisburg Penitentiary, which is another prison in Pennsylvania. They take us out and they put us in the hole there. And so he and I were now cellmates. We're sitting in the hole and we're trying to figure out where in the heck are they taking us? And I'm asking, we're trying to figure out who each other is. Well, it turns out this is Zvonko Bušić, who hijacked a plane in 1976 for the Croatian independence cause or something like that, and accidentally killed a police officer when one of his bombs went off, which he did not intend it to go off. So he had a life sentence, and he had been in prison since 1976, and they had him across the street at this penitentiary. So now they got me and him. So I'm saying to myself, well, they're treating us crazy. I've got a terrorism so-called case, and we're sitting there trying to figure this out when we can hear, like, we're in the hole, right? So when you're in the hole, you can hear like people in other cells talking. I can hear people in other cells talking who are speaking Arabic. I say, hey, listen to that. You hear these dudes speaking Arabic? He's like, yeah, I hear him saying something. I was like, man, these are Arabs, man. I said, man, they're taking us to like Guantanamo or something, man. So anyway, a couple days later, they come and they take us out and they put us in the shower room. It's like a room where they take people in so they can take showers who are in the hole. So they put us in the shower room, and then they bring a couple Arab-looking dudes in there. And then they bring another couple Arab-looking dudes in there. So I'm asking them, so where did you guys come from? They're like telling me different prisons that they had, and we're just talking amongst ourselves. And it turns out that they had really, basically all of us treated us the exact same way. And then they take us, put us on a bus, and the guy comes and makes an announcement to all. We're on a bus. It's all Muslims except for this Croatian guy. And he says, there's about 20 of us. And he says, we're taking you to a special unit. You're going to be with people of your own religion, and you're not going to be allowed to leave the unit. And that's where you're going to be for the rest of your prison sentences. So he says, I just want to tell you guys, he says, it's nothing personal from my end. This is just what they told us to do. And that's, they're carrying out orders. So we're like, golly, what? So we're trying to figure out what this is going to be like. So they take us to Indiana, and they took us to a prison that's already existing, in Terre Haute, Indiana, federal prison there. And they take us in and they bring us into this unit. And they say, this unit is yours. You can't leave this unit. You can't go to the recreation yard. You can't go to the education. You can't go to the chapel. You can't go to the chow hall, but, this is your unit and you guys run it, as long as you obey the rules and stuff like that. And then you guys can stay here. You guys have to stay here. So we're looking around and we're like, man, we're looking at a small housing unit. We've got a TV room. We've got like cells. We've got like a little recreation area, which is small. Basically, where they'd put us was the old death row. It used to be death row, but they like got all the death row people out and moved them somewhere else across the street to another prison. And now this is our unit. And they gave us a sheet that said, this is the communication management unit, and here's why you're being placed in it. And every one of us got a different explanation. So my explanation was that I had been involved with Lashkar-e-Taiba, which is a Pakistani terrorist group, and also I was with a Bosnian terrorist group during the war. So I was like, Bosnian terrorist group? What are they talking about, Bosnian terrorist group? Because I was in the army, but I was not with a terrorist group. So I don't know I was with Arabs. This was not a terrorist group, so I didn't know what they were talking about. But anyway, so they tell us the rules. First of all, the rules are that you can't leave the unit. Number two, your visits now, you cannot have contact visits. They're only through glass. So from now on, you will not be able to hug or kiss or whatever, have any contact with your friends or family for the rest of your sentences. It's only going to be behind glass. Number three, you have one 15-minute phone call every week. So to me, I was like, well, okay, well, at least I get one 15-minute phone call every week, because at Allenwood, I only have one 15-minute phone call a month. But to make this phone call, you have to schedule in advance. You have to fill out this form, fill out the schedule, tell 1 week in advance what time you're going to call, what language you're going to speak, what dialect of that language you're going to speak, and what phone number you're calling, who it is you're calling, and so on and so on. And that's pretty much it. So we're like, all right, well, this is our new life, And so who was there with us? It was the Croatian guy I was telling you about. It was the Lackawanna guys from Buffalo, the Yemeni guys who had gone off to an Al-Qaeda camp before 9/11, and then came back, and they didn't like it. They quit, And
was the Croatian guy Muslim though?
Yeah, they were Muslim. They were Yemeni.
No, the Croatian guy.
Croatian, no, he was actually part of the. He is a very interesting character, but he was just in a nutshell. He was part of the Croatian nationalist underground movement in Europe, whose activities, like revolutionary, like agitation activities, helped spark the independence of Croatia, and then the war in Yugoslavia. So they're not the cause of it, but they're one of the factors that caused Yugoslavia to split up, and then the Civil War to start. His movement became the party, the HDZ, the Croatian Democratic Community, or whatever they call it in English, HDZ. Party that took power in Croatia. So his underground movement actually seized power in Croatia, essentially. And this made him like a huge person of standing in Croatia. And his wife, who was an American, kind of converted to the Croatian cause, hijacked the plane along with him in New York in 1976. They hijacked this plane to draw attention to the Croatian cause or whatever. They were trying to get independence from communist Yugoslavia. So anyway, that's his background, and I could talk. Anyway, the guy was like a really brilliant philosopher, and very, very, very well read and stuff like that. So he and I like wound up having like we debated for like hours every day for like the year and a half that he was there with us, and he wound up getting paroled. And I had a dream about him getting paroled, and then he was paroled. I had a dream about you walking down that path right there, that we could see the path to the prison. So I had a dream about you leaving. You were wearing khakis and a polo shirt, and you were walking out that gate. And subhanAllah, he walked out that gate wearing khakis and a polo shirt. About a month later, he got parole. So anyway, he actually killed himself about 3 years after leaving prison. Shot a gun through his mouth. But when he was with me in prison, we used to debate about religion, and I used to he was interested in like the Islamic philosophers like Ibn Rushd and Ghazali and stuff, and Ibn Sina. So I had a copy of Al-Farabi's Madinat al-Fadila in Arabic, and then had an English translation, like Arabic on one side, English on the other. So I gave it to him as a parting gift because he'd given me so many books. I gave it to him when he was being paroled, and I wrote on the inside cover, I said, from an impossible from an impossible student to an impossible teacher. I said, on this occasion of your moving from one type of imprisonment to another, and from one type of freedom to another. And I put the verse from the Quran, and you see the mountains. And you see the mountains, وَتَرَى الْجِبَالَ, and you deem them firmly fixed, but they pass away like the passing of the clouds. So I wrote that on there to indicate that, there's so many layers of meaning and how I meant it for him. But one thing was that, you're sitting in prison and you think that this is never going to end. You think this is your life. And then, things pass away. And also the fact that this life is transitory and will pass away. And so it's kind of along the lines of be like a traveler, don't think that this is your home and that things that are permanently fixed will always be that way, And anyway, I gave it to him, and I found out that he went back to home, went back to Croatia after he was released. He had big crowds waiting for him in the airport. His wife was waiting for him. He had a position of honor and everything, and he killed himself. Yeah, very strange.
Wow. What year is this, by the way, Ismail? Like, we're just to do a timeline.
2007.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's 2007 is when you got Terra Haute around 06?
I got to Terra Haute in December 2006, and the also we had with us Dr. Rafal Dafur, who was the head of the Islamic Assembly of North America, which was the Salafi group. And right now I'm just referencing 90s stuff, so people probably aren't going to know what I'm talking about. So Islamic Assembly of North America, their head was there with me.
Hardcore Salafi guys, right?
Yes, exactly.
IANA and QS. Yeah, I remember we were talking about that.
We used to go to their conferences.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we had some good conversation about them last week.
yeah. So it's these are all rabbit holes that we could go down to, for hours.
No, before you got into that rabbit hole of the Croatian, we were talking about. You could hear the Arab people,
the Arabs
talking,
and so you guys were in the Muslim. You guys were all together. You were in a Muslim only kind of residence, right?
Yeah, a Muslim only prison unit, and we never saw any other inmates. It was only us.
Why do you think they did that? Just to get some
the reason they did it, and by the way, they later brought some more non-Muslims there because people were complaining, saying, "Oh, you made this a Muslim unit; it's discriminatory." So they're like, yeah, you're right. So we can't be accused of being discriminatory. We'll throw in a whole bunch of other random Joes, which was kind of like, uncool because when we had either only Muslims or the non-Muslims that were with us were people who were in there for like political type cases. So we were all kind of like, I don't know, like we were different than like just ordinary like prison type of guys. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so it was an interesting unit, So like I say, originally it was all Muslims except for like this Croatian guy, and then like a guy from the Colombian FARC, F-A-R-C, rebel group was in there, but he didn't speak English at all. So it was like he was just not even really a factor, So we're in there, and Abdurrahman Al-Amoudi was there with us from the American Muslim Council. We had these were like the original group of us like started getting bigger and bigger because what they did was they seeded it with like at first like 20 people, and then they started bringing more and more waves of people, and ultimately it got to be about 45 people. But we had like we had the brother Hatem Fares from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad case. We had, just all kinds of random. We had basically what they were doing with this unit was they were making it a unit for people with terrorism cases whose cases were not big enough to be sent to ADX, which is the SuperMax. Unbeknownst to us at the time, the bigger picture here is that they decided in 2005 that they were going to restructure their system for dealing with people with terrorism cases. They were going to ban all people with terrorism cases as they classified them from ordinary prisons, and they were going to put them either in ADX if they had serious enough cases, which is the SuperMax prison in Colorado, or they were going to put them in the CMU in Terra Haute, and then they made another CMU at the federal prison in Marion, Illinois, like a year after they made the Terra Haute one. And so those were going to be the only three places that someone with a terrorism offense, an inmate with a terrorism offense could be. So, and then they brought all my co-defendants to Terra Haute. So it was me, Ibrahim Al-Hamdi, Saifullah Chapman, Masoud Khan, and then some other couple guys who were sort of related to our case, but not exactly on the same indictment, and so on. So basically, what happened is that we had to figure out for ourselves how we were going to operate this unit.
What was that reunion look like when you met Ibrahim and everyone?
It was nice. It was nice to be together. It was nice to be together because we'd all been, if we'd all been friends, it made it easier, to have to do your time. And we had classes like Dr. Rafal would do, had a Quran halaqa. We had Yasin Arif. Yasin Arif was the Imam in, I forgot which town that is, but he was an Imam in New York, and he's Kurdish, Iraqi Kurd, and they locked him up. It was a very silly kind of sting operation that they got him. They thought that he was someone like dangerous, and so they said, well, we got to do something to get this guy off the streets. So they got him with a sting operation. It turned out that he wasn't really who they thought he was, but he was actually a very significant student of knowledge. So the brother Abu Salah, or Yasin, he was a student of Abdul Qadir al-Arnaout, the famous muhaddith of Syria, and when he came to that unit, he started teaching us we had a zillion books. We had because you're allowed in the BOP, you're allowed to order books. So we ordered, we had Fath al-Bari, we had all kinds of tafsirs like Fath al-Qadir and Fath al-Majid, all kinds of, tafsir. We had Ibn Kathir, and we had Nail al-Natar from, Shawkani. We had, just Ibn Taymiyyah, the whole Ibn Taymiyyah, Majmu' al-Fatawa. And so the brother Abu Salat starts teaching us the Mustalah al-Hadith, Usul al-Tafsir. We had the Quran halaqa with Dr. Rafal. So alhamdulillah, we passed our time, and we were working out. Oh man, that's the one thing I didn't tell you guys about, is my therapy was working out. So I'm working out every day, and we had a workout group. We were all working out together. We didn't have weights there, but we had medicine balls, and we had pull-up bars, and we used to do burpees. And so me and Saifullah Chapman, we'd go out and do burpees in the snow with wearing just gym shorts and no shirt on, just gym shorts and tennis shoes, doing burpees in the snow and stuff. Man, people would look at us like we were crazy, And but anyway, so that's how we passed our time, And there was a lot of infighting and a lot of stuff, especially between we had things where they had the Virginia guys who they considered as Salafis, and then versus the Ikhwan guys. That was the main division in there. It was the Ikhwan guys and the Salafi guys, Although it wasn't really what it sounds like. It wasn't as much along those kind of ideological lines as it was really just those were the kind of parties that formed. It was we're all from Virginia, so we're all kind of and then these guys are all sort of Ikhwan guys, so they kind of were all friends, and they kind of had their party, so it was really too bad. I have to say, it was definitely too bad. And I learned a lot about getting along and about partisanship and divisions and stuff like that. It was really ridiculous. And Abu Salah, I have to say, Yasin Arif, he came to me one time and said, Ismail, why are you involved in all this stuff? Eeb, ya akhi, eeb, wallah. So he really kind of made me see the error of my ways, and that I had, one of the things was that became involved in this unit was that, who's going to be the leader of it, and the issue wasn't oh, I want to be the leader. No, I want to be the leader. The issue was, should a person who's Ikhwan, or should a person who was this or that or whatever, be running this, and or what? But these guys are older. No, but we, and it was just really ridiculous. It was a total disaster. I have to say, in that angle, except for the fact that I learned a lot, and now some of those all those brothers who we used to argue with, I definitely consider them to be close friends and my uncles and stuff now. So I memorized a lot of Quran. We had the Quran on CD, so we used to listen to that. I used to listen to it a lot, memorize Quran. And that's how it went for until but this whole time, by the way, my relationship with my wife is basically destroyed totally. We're divorced. I have years, well, at this point it hadn't been years, but like a year has gone by that I haven't seen them. And it's not my wife's fault, my ex-wife's fault at that time. She just didn't have any real way to get down there. And I just was not able to compete with all the people who were chasing her. And
how many years into it was it?
This is now by like 2008, it was over totally. Okay. So this is like 5 years after. But it was a slow death, put it that way. Yeah. Death by 1,000 cuts.
Were you talking to your kids though on the phone and whatnot?
Yeah, a little bit. I was talking to them more than I was at more than I had been at Allenwood, obviously. But the visits were very difficult because they'd come and see me, and it's behind glass, and you have to use these telephones to talk to them. And it was very, very hard on the kids. It was like more depressing than anything when they would come and see me, and you'd be happy, but. And then they only gave you like 3 hours, and then they had to leave. So and it was like a trip from Virginia to Indiana. You know what I mean? So it was like, it was, and then the visiting room was so small, like a little booth was so small that like, it was in a little room, almost like closet size. So like I've got my wife, or at that point ex-wife. I've got 4 kids. I mean, they couldn't even fit in that room all at once. So it was like it was really, really. It was very difficult, and so I was trying to do the thing of, I mean, to be honest, I was thinking, having suicidal thoughts, a lot, to be honest, and but I overcame that, alhamdulillah, and
how though? Well, what was it? Was it a lot of support?
Trying to change trying to change my habits of thought, and really. Ironically, it was the brother, it was the dude, Bušić, who talked me through a lot of that, you know what I mean? And he because we used to talk so much and debating, like, religion and stuff that we, it got kind of close. And I couldn't really, because of all the fitna and stuff going on with the brothers, I had a hard time with them talking with a lot of them. Although Saifullah Chapman, my co-defendant, he and I got very, very close during that, and then we were later together in ADX at the SuperMax in Colorado. So we grew very close, from that experience, and he helped me through a lot of those things.
So Indiana, how many years were you there total?
I was there until October 2009, and why did I leave in October 2009? Because a certain person, actually 2 people in that unit, 2 Muslims there, and I'm not going to identify them, but they're fairly known people. They started acting really crazy. Like, they started going around like bullying people, and I was ignoring them because I was so tired of all the fights with leadership and stuff like that I had just like tuned all that out, and I was sitting in the law library that we had there. We had a computer with Lexis on it, which is like a legal database, and I had a typewriter, and I was just like cranking out like lawsuits and cranking out like appeals for people, and I was just like in there just like working on. So I was working on a lawsuit to get me out of Saifullah and Sabri, because we were all there together, to get us out of that CMU and back to regular prisons that were closer to our families, where we could have contact visits and stuff like that. So I filed a lawsuit for us. I was doing, like I said, I was helping people with like habeas corpus motions and stuff. And so I was just like, had buried myself. And that's how I was through that, and working out is how I was trying, and also studying is how I was trying to take my mind off of my, sadness over my marriage and not seeing my kids and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm sitting in this law library, and the brother, some brothers from the Shura come to me, and they say, brother, we need you to help resolve this situation. We've got these two guys running around. They're threatening people. They just took some scissors out of the barbershop and threatened to stab brother so-and-so. They're going crazy. We need you to do something. And here's the reason that this was happening was because these guys were, first of all, one of them had a life sentence. So he's also bipolar. So he was not in a normal state to begin with. And also because of the fact that he was really, really, really frustrated. We were all like, if you can imagine like us being in a tin can. Look, these people, for example, in the BOP, I mean, in that unit, they had microphones and cameras every like 10 feet on the walls. So they'd come and tell you, I heard you studying Spanish the other day, stuff like that, just to unnerve you. You know what I mean? So it was like, and then because we're all squeezed together in this thing, all of us are suffering from our family situation deteriorating. This one brother who I'm talking about, his wife just left him and took his kid to Morocco. So the same thing was going on with my family. Same thing's going on with all. So and here's the other thing, right? In a regular prison, if you don't like a dude, you just avoid him because regular prisons are huge. You know what I mean? You don't have to see the guy. Just don't talk to him. Here, you're walking by each other 10 times a day. You're bumping elbows into him. You're seeing him every day because the unit's so small and you can't leave it. So you're just seeing each other. You see each other in the TV room. You see each other in the chow hall. You see each other you walk by each other. And if you're ignoring each other every time, like let's say you say to yourself, man, I'm boycotting this brother. I'm not even going to talk to him. So you're boycotting each other. Every time you walk by each other, there's friction. Every time you walk by each other, you're more and more irritated at each other. So this is what's going on in this unit. And the brother is starting to spaz out and he's starting to lose it and come unhinged. And he's going around threatening people. And his partner in this scheme is some, who's got a grievance. Pardon my language. I know 2017, that's not a cool word to use. He's got a grievance because this is so ridiculous. This brother wanted to be placed he wanted a job as a kitchen worker. And the Imam of our unit did not give him the job as a kitchen worker, wouldn't allow him to work in that job. And so he was real mad about that. So now he's rebelling against the Imam and he's rebelling against the community. So the Imam resigns. The Imam says, I can't handle this anymore. I'm washing my hands of it. So the Shura, the Majlis Shura is coming to me and saying, hey, you know this brother, he's from Virginia. We need you to go and handle this situation. I'm like, I'm not handling this. I'm not getting involved. I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. I'm over here I got people's legal work. I'm doing, I'm just not going to do it. They're like, look, we need you to be the Imam. So I was like, all right, man. So they had a meeting and the whole shura persuaded me that I should be the Imam so that I can handle this particular situation. So I agreed to become the Imam. I did the khutbah for that week. And then we had, by the way, like John Walker Lindh was one of the guys in this unit. These guys were persecuting him too for some reason.
How was he?
Oh, that's another rabbit hole. I mean,
that's a rabbit hole. I think we want to we can go down.
Yeah,
we'll do that. We'll do that. So let me just let me talk about John Walker Lindh for a second before I rejoin that, because this incident that I'm telling you is why I got sent to the SuperMax. So John Walker Lindh comes. He was at ADX briefly. Before that, he'd been at a medium security prison in California. The white dudes beat him up. And so, he was having problems over there. Anyway, they sent him to ADX because, remember, as I was telling you, when the BOP came up with this policy that no one could be on a regular unit except with the terrorism case, he could only be in ADX or in a CMU, communication management unit. So they sent him to ADX. Instead of us, they sent to the CMU and Terra. Him, they sent him to ADX. So he goes to ADX. And after about a year, his lawyers persuaded the BOP to send him to a CMU instead of ADX. So he pops up at the CMU, and his situation is this. First of all, I think he's got some problems functioning with other people. Okay, and the reason I say that is because, number one, I think he has some pre-existing, maybe some socialization skill issues. Which made it, I think he's just a little bit awkward around
social anxiety, maybe.
Social anxiety. That's what I mean to say. But more than that, right? More than that is that, on top of that is what he experienced in Afghanistan, where he was wounded in the leg in that riot in the prison, and then his gunshot was was exposed into the water because the Northern Alliance pumped the basement where they were all the people who were rioting, all the prisoners that they had, Taliban prisoners and Al Qaeda prisoners, were rioting. So they pumped water into it to sort of like force them to leave. So he was sitting in this dank water with his wound, and then when he came out, and then the Americans figured out that he was American, and they kept him in a shipping container. They were upset because the CIA officer had been killed in the riot, and now they're obviously, this 9/11 had just happened, so they find this white guy, so they've got him in a shipping container, and they're treating him really, really badly, like urinating on him and stuff like that, and they're not treating his wound. That was another thing that they were doing, was not treating his wound. So I think that experience as well, like kind of, probably traumatized him to a certain degree. In any event, when he got to us in Terra Haute, he was friendly and nice, but he was very, very, very. I think the word religious is not really the word that I'm looking for, because I would say like almost like kind of obsessed. Like he would read Quran for like 8 hours straight. You know what I mean? That type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and he would just like pace in his room, reading Quran, and he was very, very like kind of monomaniacal, and I almost think that perhaps this is my amateur diagnosis, may have some kind of Asperger's or something like that. When combining like the social awkwardness with the sort of like fixation on things, and we read in our history like about scholars who were very dedicated to that, but it's not just the Quran recitation, but also like he was very, very fixated on certain ideas and certain certain things, that like it made it very like it was like very, very difficult to talk to him, because to try to like engage him in a conversation where there were like other ways of thinking about things, and he would get kind of agitated about, like, I gave him an essay that I wrote, and he was it really kind of like didn't jibe with him, and he kind of was upset about it. So and it wasn't anything like really controversial. I guess it would be to a certain way of looking at things, but I think that the brother, a lot of times when you become Muslim, all of it, many of us fall into that type of, and I think that eventually like we get burned out and we grow out of it and we mature in the deen and we see like other ways of looking at things and stuff like that. And when I left him in 2009, he still had not, I was at that point hoping that that process would come, in his life, but when I left him, he was still kind of, like that. But may Allah help him and all of us. And he went through a lot. Yeah, he went through a lot, and I think he's going to need. He's getting out soon, so I think he's going to need some social work type of care. And he's got family issues too. His dad loves him a lot, But
yeah, I was going to say that his dad is at least from what we saw in the media, his dad seemed like he's a really loving, caring dad. He was there with them every step of the way.
Absolutely, yeah. His dad, but but I think like in terms of like a divorce between his mom and his dad, and so I think he's got some family issues, but he does have that father who is we saw evidence of, is constantly looking out for him. So to have someone like that is really a beautiful thing, So anyway, it's a little bit difficult for me to talk about him because I don't want to I don't want to say like things that might harm him because he's about to get out. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's
go back to.
And it's, by the way, it's not that I have anything to say that would be harmful, but it's just that it's like things could be taken different ways and stuff.
Sure.
So anyway, so this clown was persecuting the brother Yahya. We call him Yahya. John Walker was persecuting him, was persecuting others, and he was persecuting people who he thought were soft. Okay, so. This is what we did. Me and the brothers in the shura, we said, all right, we got to handle this situation. Why don't we do this? All right. we'll send you a group of 3 brothers over to talk to him, and I'll go over and I'll talk to this guy who was his like partner in crime. And we'll talk to them and we'll try to like get to the bottom of what their grievances are and see if there's anything we can do for them and figure out why they're actually behaving this way, and get to the root of the problem. So we tried that, right? We tried it and it didn't work. They just merely increased in their, in their crazy persecution of people. So I heard when I woke up, actually the guy who was his partner in doing all this, not the brains of the operation of these 2 who were persecuting people, but the number 2 guy. I go and I say, hey, man, so do you? So he basically, the brother promised that he would back off of that situation, that he would not, continue in what he was doing. Well, I heard him the next day talking, the 2 of them together talking again, plotting about how they were at war with the community. They're shouting, "We're at war with the community," and the brother, a certain brother. I heard that they had gone and threatened him that morning. So I go and I say, hey, brother, did they threaten you? Is that true? And he's like, yeah, they threatened me. I said, all right. So I didn't hear anything more about it from him. I went and I gathered up the shura and I said, listen, we gotta go handle this situation. We got to take him out. And so we came up with a plan where we were going to go to him and tell the brother he had to check in. And to check in means that you go and take yourself to the police and you say, I need you to lock me up in the hole because I'm in danger, So that way we don't have to do something to him. He doesn't have to get beat up, but he just goes and like surrenders peacefully basically to the police. So that was our plan, right? So we get together, 5 brothers, and by the way, like if you see like the cross section of this shows like how furious everyone in the unit was with him. There's a Filipino Muslim, there's an Algerian Muslim, there's an African American Muslim, there's a white Muslim, there's me, another white Muslim, and then there's so that's the group of us that went to go to him. Okay, so we go to him and we find him in the recreation cage, and I tell him, I say, brother, I love you, you're my brother, but you got to go, man, you got to go. So I said, go to the officer and tell him you want to check in. So he's like, he looks at me, he's like, man, you got to be joking, man. He's like, he just couldn't believe, because we were all so nice in there, and everyone was like just letting him walk all over him, and that he just couldn't believe that it was serious. So I said, look, I'm gonna count to 5. If you're not out of here by the time I'm finished counting 5, then it is what it is. So I start counting 1, 2. So by like 4, he figured out that this was serious. We were serious about it. So he stands up like he's going to fight. When he stood up, I tackled him, took him to the ground, and then everyone started pummeling him. So this is not how I wanted it to go down, but it actually just like turned out that way. Okay. So he got up for a second. He managed to get up, and I grabbed his legs and tackled him again. And their brothers kept pummeling him. And then he's like, all right, I'll go. So, okay, alhamdulillah, I'll go. So I said, leave him alone. I told everyone, leave him alone. So I stand up, he stands up, and I look at his face, and his face is like a bloody mess. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, how did that happen? Like what in the hell, happened to him? I couldn't figure it out. I mean, like how did we were just like, punching him. How did he, and not even really that hard, a lot of, So, well, what had happened was the Filipino brother had a padlock on the end of a belt, and was whacking him with the padlock in the head. And so the police, the officers, when they saw that, they just absolutely lost it. I mean, they spazzed out. There had not been any fights in that unit in like 2 years. Actually, I was there for 3.5 years. So there hadn't been any fights actually in 3.5 years since it was open. This is the first violent incident that happened. And so they immediately took me and shipped me to the hole in another prison in Illinois. They sent me from, just like that day, actually. So that was the last I saw of any of those brothers for a long time. Some of them I have seen since then, but anyway, they sent me to the hole in a prison in Illinois, and I sat in the hole there for 6 months. Went on a hunger strike for 2 weeks. I didn't eat any food at all, not a bite of food for 2 weeks, in order to protest the conditions they had me under. They wouldn't let me go to recreation. They wouldn't let me, they had sandbags in front of my cell, so that people couldn't send. They like literally had bags of sand in front of my cell so that people couldn't like shoot stuff to me underneath the cell door. That's how you like in the hole. That's how you communicate. Is like you tie something to say like you take a deodorant a stick and you squash the casing of it and make it flat so that it's like flat and heavy and slick. And when you tie like you take your bed sheet and you tear strips of it off and you tie them all together to make like a rope, and then like you slide it under your cell door and you slide it under so that it goes under other people's doors or whatever. Things get real creative like that, So they put these sandbags in front of my door so that these other inmates could not send me anything, and so that I couldn't communicate with anyone. And so, like I said, I went on a hunger strike. Oh, and I didn't see my kids. At this point, it had been like over a year that I hadn't seen my kids. I'm getting letters from them once in a while, but whatever. So I'm in this room, in solitary for 6 months, just doing like burpees, working out, reading. I was reading, being depressed, not eating. It was just really crazy. So then they come and tell me, you're going to ADX, the SuperMax. So I'm like, well, I figured that was probably what was coming. So they sent me to ADX. And ADX is the SuperMax prison in Florence, Colorado. And there I was, it's a very surreal experience, They drove me to, the airport in Oklahoma from Illinois, in a car with, wearing all kinds of like body armor and stuff. And it was really funny because the van, it pulls over to get gas. And let me tell you about it. So they go to McDonald's to get food, right? So I'm in the back. They're not giving me McDonald's. They give me like a little box of peanut butter jelly sandwiches and stuff. But I'm having to travel with my hands handcuffed in front of me with my handcuffs looped through a chain around my waist, and my legs are shackled. And so I have to travel like this the whole way, which it took me, a while to get from Illinois to Colorado. So, and I'm eating like I'm trying to eat like this. They give me like a bottle to use the bathroom in the back and stuff. Some bottles of bottled water and stuff.
That's a 17-hour drive.
Yeah. So the van, right? The van to get from Illinois to, they took me to the airport in Oklahoma that's actually where they took me, not to Colorado, but they took me to the airport in Oklahoma. Why? I don't know. As I'll explain, they later figured out the people when we got to Oklahoma were like, why'd you come to Oklahoma? Why'd you drive to Oklahoma? It doesn't even make any sense. Why don't you just take the plane from St. Louis to Oklahoma? But anyway, because prisoners, there's a little known fact that there's a network of federal prisoner, there's a federal prisoner airline flying around the United States that people don't realize. And these planes are unmarked and they leave from secret areas of airports that people are not even aware of. And, prison buses of prisoners come and load and unload in these secret parts of not in every airport, but in certain airports. And instead of putting me on a plane, they drove me to Oklahoma City, to an airport in Oklahoma City, and then had me get on the plane from Oklahoma City to Colorado. So anyway, on this drive, it was really a surreal experience because this van. So I'm in this van with these dudes in body armor, and they've got M16 or M4 machine guns, and there's a chase car following us. So this van is driving down the same highway that I used to drive on every day when I lived in St. Louis. So because we're driving from Illinois, we got to drive through St. Louis. So we drive through St. Louis, and we're on this highway, and I'm seeing all these exits fly by that I used to as a teenager. I used to drive on this highway, and I'd be like, because I'd always, go hang out in the city, and I lived out in the suburbs. So I know the exits. The exits mean like I'm getting closer to home. Like, and it's usually like at the end of the night, so I'm like relieved to be getting home. And I'm seeing these exits going from Van de Vanner to Kings Highway to this to that, and the signs say to me, "You're getting closer to home. You're getting closer to home." And then here comes Big Bend, which was my exit. So I say to the cops, I say, hey, my exit, here's my exit, you know. Like, I hadn't lived in St. Louis for like 10 years at that point. You know, I'd moved to DC, but, you know, anyway, so they get off the exit to go to McDonald's anyway. So they get off there and they're going to a McDonald's that I went to. Okay. But now I'm in a van, you know, handcuffed with dudes with body armor and machine guns. And this van pulls up to McDonald's and they're just following procedure. The van pulls up to McDonald's. It's nighttime. The parking lot is almost empty except for a car with like a teenage couple, and they're standing, you know, next to each other and kind of hugging and, you know, making googly eyes into each other's eyes, you know. And so here comes our van that pulls up about, you know, 30 feet away from them. And we pull up there because, you know, they want to park in the back in a corner so that they can like make a perimeter around it. And so then they get out of the van and they pull their machine guns out of the trunks of their cars, and they're wearing these like black outfits, and they make like a circle around the van. And I'm looking at this teenage couple, and they're looking over and they're like freaking out, like, what in the hell is this, you know? And I want to tell them, hey, I'm actually like from St. Louis, you know, I'm a normal guy, you know, I'm really not like I'm not what this looks like, you know. This isn't, you know, this is all totally overkill, you know. This is, you know, and I can't, you know, of course, communicate with them because I'm behind this glass, and they freak out and they get in this van and drive away, you know. And it's just the craziest thing in the world, you know. It's like, man, you know. And so anyway, we get to Oklahoma City, and they put me on the plane, and you know, like I said, the people at the airplane there were like, why didn't you just put them on the plane in Illinois? And they're like, I don't know, that's what they told us to do. So the whole drive was like totally for nothing. Anyway, they could have put me on a plane in Oklahoma. So now I'm in Illinois. So now I get to ADX. Okay, I get to Colorado, and they take us on a, you know, special thing there. And ADX is a very unique place. It's not like any other. First of all, it's the most secure federal prison. It's the most secure prison in the United States. It's built totally different than every other prison. It's basically a labyrinth. Okay, so you come in there. First of all, you know when you're getting there that you are going somewhere special, because this place is full of people who have murdered staff, who have murdered other inmates. You know, that's actually the majority of people in there are people who have murdered staff or inmates. So they're treating you like you're a potential murderer of staff and inmates. You know, that's how they have to treat you, because if they start treating you differently, then they slip. And these people, in ADX, they have working there the most professional employees in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. The most professional. You can't work there unless you're just top of the line, you know, professional. And they're very different than other officers. They're not over there trying to like antagonize you. They're not, I mean, they're firm. They're very firm with you, but they're very respectful and polite. The food was way better than any other place I'd ever been. Way more food. But anyway, okay, so they take me in there, they process me. They're treating me like I'm that damn, Hannibal Lecter. You have to go through a X-ray machine when you get there, so that they can see if you've swallowed or otherwise are concealing in your body weapons or drugs or anything like that. So they put you through the X-ray machine. They you go through all their processes and stuff like that. And they took me and they put me in the hole. Okay, so the hole in ADX actually. These are the units in ADX. Okay, you have the lockdown units, which are basically solitary confinement, which are they call them general population units, which sounds like it's not the whole, but it is solitary. And then you have what they call solitary, which is exactly the same as the regular lockdown units, except for the fact that you don't have a TV in there. So that's the difference. In the regular lockdown areas, they give you a TV. In solitary confinement, they don't give you a TV. So you don't have a TV. So they put me in there for like a few weeks while they figured out what unit they were going to put me in, and so on and so on. So I'm in there. They take me, they put me in there. And the way ADX is, the cells are like this. The cells are big cells, and you've got double doors. So the first layer of doors let's say you're sitting inside the cell and you're looking at the door. So what you're looking at is a sliding door. By the way, this place is so clean and it's so immaculately painted, and it's like a hospital is what it looks like.
Is it like
very different?
Would you say, have you seen a Terminator 2 movie?
Yeah.
Is it like that
like
when they had Sarah Connor?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, it's more modern looking. It's really, really modern. It's very modern looking, and it's very cold, and it's cold, clinical, modern, clean. Everything's polished and shiny. They bring people in at night, inmates from the minimum security prison that's near there to polish everything, buff everything.
I heard the paint even is like a calming. It's supposed to have like a calming effect.
Very calming. Yeah. It's light green and gray. That's the color scheme. So what they do is they put you in the cell, and the cell is fairly big. The bed has got it's like a flat concrete bunk, and they have a poured concrete stool, which is basically just like a round pillar. They've got a poured concrete table, which no corners on anything. Everything is rounded, and they've got a TV in there. And they've got now the TVs when I got there were the old tube TVs. They weren't flat screen, and also they were black and white. They weren't really black and white; they were color. But the Federal Bureau of Prisons has a regulation imposed by Congress that says if inmates are the only inmates that are allowed to have TVs are inmates in SuperMax, and the TVs that they have cannot be color; they have to be black and white. Why? I have no idea. So, but because they don't manufacture, just to punish them, but because of the fact that they don't even manufacture black and white TVs anymore, what they were doing was they were taking the TVs, going in there, opening them up, opening up the menu, turning the color down to 0, and then pulling out the contacts for the menu button, so that you wouldn't be able to turn the thing back on. What's funny is when I got into, I'll tell you how I got into the out through the hole, because the hole was like its own special situation. But when I got into like a regular cell and I had a TV and stuff, the first thing the guys told me was how to turn the color back on in the TV. You know what I'm saying? So like basically using a staple and the insert from a pen, like a pen cartridge, and a little wadded up piece of paper. So using those implements, I was able to turn the color back on my TV. But anyway, so when I come to the hole, they put me in ADX. So what you do, you're looking at the door. The door is a sliding set of bars. So that shuts, bam, and then like there's like about 4 feet of empty space, just your cell, and then a sliding steel door. So there's double doors. Why? So that number one, to keep you in there securely, and number two, so that like if the staff wants to talk to you, they can open up the sliding door and then walk into that little kind of like foyer or whatever little area right in front, and they can talk to you and you're still behind bars, so that they can like enter your cell and talk to you, but you're still behind bars. So that's how it is. It's pretty big. There's a shower in the cell and a TV. And they bring your food to the door. Obviously, there's a pretty good book list. They've got like a library, and then what they do is they have a list of books, really huge list of books, and you can select which books you want, and you order them, and they send them to you. It takes like a few days, whatever. But great books. I read a lot in there, and a lot of Islamic books too, and a lot of Arabic Islamic books. Islamic Arabic books, book libraries. I mean, libraries that I've seen in any prison. The biggest one I've ever seen in any prison.
Would it be fair to say that this was much better than you expected, and you were actually having a good time?
No. What it is
I mean,
that
compared to the other ones, I'm not saying you were having a party over here, but
well, here was the thing with this. So now I'm in Colorado. I'm by myself in a cell. I'm now allowed to have two 15-minute phone calls a month. It was easier in the sense that I've got the TV, so I can watch TV and just like zone out on that. I can, they do what they can to make it easy for you. They really do. They know that this is their thing is like, you're not here to be punished. you're here because we're not here. We're not trying to punish you by putting you in here. We're putting you in here because you're too violent to be able to function in normal prison life. And so we're going to put you in here. We're going to try to make you as comfortable as possible so that you just lay the hell down and don't cause any more problems. And that's basically what they, achieve in a lot of ways. But the problem is that you can get very comfortable. It's like a womb, It's like being in a womb. You don't have any responsibilities. You don't have to go deal with anyone. You don't have to talk to anyone. You can retreat into your mind and just vegetate. And, it's like just warm and fuzzy, and if you have any anxieties of like being cooped up, they're more than willing to come in, give you some medication for that, and they give out a lot of medication for that. And I took it. I took Zoloft. I took Zoloft for many years, and it started in ADX. I started taking Zoloft because I would have dreams of being buried alive, and I have some anxiety of being in small areas without being able to run around and stuff. And so then I also found out that my wife had remarried. So I found out that when I was there in ADX. And so that really, really, was hard to deal with. And at that point, I hadn't seen my kids for many years. I used to look out the window. When you look out the window, you saw a wall. And there were these owls. It was like a mother and daughter owl. I don't know if they were really mother and daughter. That's kind of in my mind, what it seemed like. But there was a big one and a small one, and they would sit on this like light fixture on the wall, not far from my window. So I used to watch them, and that was kind of like my, interaction with nature and the world. And I would watch them sit there and like preen each other and stuff, and it was pretty cool, so that's kind of, you find ways to make things bearable,
Sure. How long were you ADX for?
2.5 years.
So from 2010 to 2012, kind of?
Yeah, I got there in March 2010, and I left at the end of 2012.
Okay.
What prompted the departure from there?
Okay, no. What happened is that I was in the hole for the actual hole without the TV. I was there for about a week. And what's funny is that, like, when I got there, this white supremacist dude was in the cell next to me. So he saw them put me in that cell, and he saw I'm a white guy, so he wants to know who's this white dude that just got here at ADX. So he says, "Hey, what's your name?" I say, "Ismail." He says, "Ismail." I said, "Yeah." He says, "What is that? A Muslim name?" I say, "Yeah." He says, "You're Muslim?" I say, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh." He said, "What, did you convert or something?" I say, "Yeah." I said, "But I go through my thing. Well, no, I was Muslim on the street, though. In the free world, I didn't convert in prison. That's like a big thing, what I mean? Which, of course, is unfair to people who convert in prison for sincere reasons. But anyway,
yeah.
So he says, it's just the way it is. So he says, "Oh yeah, well, where are you from?" I said, "From Virginia." He's like, "Yeah." So he just asking me a bunch of questions. Like he's trying to get to know me. Well, anyway, after about a few hours, he starts banging on the cell, on his door, on the wall. He's banging, and then he starts banging on the shower, which is really, really loud because the shower is stainless steel. And he's going, "Race traitor! It's a race traitor! And he's going, "You say you're from Virginia! You betrayed the people of Virginia!" And he starts singing like, "Our country to the..." He's going, "We're at war with Islam. We're at war." And he's just, "Race traitor." So he just does this for about 12 hours a day. I'm not exaggerating. He's doing this like 12. He takes a break every once in a while, and then he'll pick it back up. And anyway, the officers came to get me because when you first come to any new institution, they take you to the doctor, so the doctor gives you a physical and whatever, So and find out about what medication you're taking and stuff like that. So these officers come and get me, and so when they escort you to the doctor, you gotta cuff up, you gotta be handcuffed and shackled in your legs and stuff like that. So they're doing all this, putting these shackles on me in front of my cell. And my cell is right in front of his. I'm standing like right in front of his cell, basically. And he's standing there smashing his fist on the Well, he can't get to the door because you got the bars, but he's banging on the bars, and he's yelling, "Race trader on the tier, race trader on the tier." So I'm like trying to blow it off, right? And I'm just kind of like smiling, like whatever, man. You know what I mean? But I'm boiling. So they take me to the doctor. And when they take you to the doctor, they do, take your vital signs, right? So they take my vitals, and he puts on the cuff to see the blood pressure. And when he sees my blood pressure, he's like, "Oh my God, we got to get you on medication. You are absolutely in the danger zone. So when he said that, right, I just laughed. I laughed because I realized that that dude had upset me more than I had even realized myself. And so when I laughed, I felt my blood pressure like immediately like drop. So I told him, I said, "Take my blood pressure again." He's like, "Okay." And so he took my blood pressure again, and it was like actually lower than normal. So so it was that laughter, that released that. So anyway, I go from there. They put me in my unit that I was in, and the unit. See, the way it is in ADX is that you are really only going to ever be around or see the people who are on your tier or on the hallway that you're on, because there's like, first of all, like the way ADX is that like there's separate units, and not only are they separate units, but there's different wings in the different units, and then like the wings each one of these like separations has a set of bars and doors and stuff, that you can't possibly get through, even if you were able to somehow or another get out of your cell and run around. So there's just like compartments after compartments after compartments. And so like the smallest like thing that like unit of like of separation is your cell. And then outside of that is like the hallway that you're on. So the hallway that you're on is 12 cells. Those guys in those 12 cells are the people that you're going to be around. And you're not going to see someone who's even on the other in your very same unit, but he's on another wing of the unit, because you're not going to. The only time you're going to see these dudes is at recreation. Even the guys on your own hallway or tier, as we say. So when they come around in the morning and they say, "Who wants to go to recreation? You want to go to recreation? Yeah, put me down for recreation." So like around 8:00, they come and get you, take you out of your cell, cuff you up, put the chains on you, take you out, and put you in a cage. And it's outside, yeah, but there's a wall around you. And it's like but you're in a little cage, but you're at least outside, in the fresh air. And then there's like a row of cages. So they'll get the other dudes on your hall that your tier that wanted to go to recreation too. So since now you can finally like see each other and talk to each other without having to like yell at each other through the through the door or something like that, or without having to like talk through the ventilation system or the pipes and stuff like that, which is how we normally would talk to each other. So now we can see people's face to face, even though like you're behind, you're in the cage. Now, so the guys on my unit were Terry Nichols, who was the co-conspirator in the Oklahoma City bombing. Wow. It was Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, and then it was some other guys who were kind of they're mainly guys who were well known in the prison system for being like big time like Aryan Brotherhood type of guys, and or gang leaders, like for Jeff Ford, for example. If you ever heard of Jeff Ford,
was the Unabomber in there too?
Huh?
Was that Unabomber guy? Was he still there?
Yeah, Unabomber was in my unit, but he never came. Not on my tier. It was in my unit, but he never even came out of his cell. Ever wow. Came out of his cell. So no one really saw him, ever. He just, stayed in there. And so there were a lot of like Eric Rudolph, who was the guy who bombed the '96 Olympics and bombed various like gay bars and like abortion clinics and stuff like that. He was the guy who they were looking for him for. He was like a survivalist. Yeah. He was like, yeah. So he was in there. We had some interesting conversations about books and stuff. And
so you actually would talk to Terry Nichols and Eric Rudolph and these guys?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because Terry and I were very our cells were right next to each other. So when they took us out to recreation, the cages are right next to each other, so we're talking to each other. And also, what we would do is like, as I was telling you about fishing, which is where you make something, you tie it, and then you slide it under your door and stuff like that. We would do that, so you could like send notes back and forth to each other like that. Or what you do as well is, you go to the shower. Remember I told you every room has a shower? So you go to the shower and you put a roll of toilet paper over the drain and you blow really hard and sharp with a sharp blow. Like, And then what you do is you blow the water out of the like kind of U-shaped pipe that's in there, and that water goes and it's blown out. The reason that water is there is to keep sewer gases from coming up into your through the pipe. So when you blow the water out, and then the other dude blows his water out, now you can talk like as if you're like on a phone, you know what I'm saying, through the pipes. And you can do that through the sink as well. Like so, but the sink will only communicate with the guy in the cell next to you or the guy in the cell below you. So when the cell below, so basically you wind up being able to communicate with the people below you through the pipes, the people next to you through the pipes, and the shower pipes though you could communicate with really anyone on the whole hallway because it like went way farther than the other ones. So for example, like this guy in the cell below me was Imam Jamil Al-Amin.
Oh, wow.
Or H-Rap Brown. So Jamil Al-Amin actually, I had met him before, you know, in the 90s when I was, you know, like a guy, you know, when I was someone, you know, but in prison, we're two inmates, you know, I mean, obviously he has a standing for sure, you know, but he was really furious at me because I would use the water a lot. And what happens is like he's in the cell below me. So when you push the water, everything works electronically. It works on like servos. So you push a button and there's like this clack noise and then the water starts running. And when the water cuts off, it's clack. And when you flush the toilet, it's clack. And then when you turn on the water, you know, the shower water, the same thing. And then on top of all that is the noise that the water is making as it's running. I mean, this water is like, you know, it's like running in your cell is what it sounds like, you know. As a matter of fact, it's even louder in other people's cells than it is in your own cell for some reason, you know. Or maybe it just seems that way. So I was using a lot of water, you know, like istinja and wudu and, you know, making lemonade and because you can order stuff off the commissary with powdered lemonade and stuff. So apparently I'm really annoying the brother Jamil Al-Amin. And the thing about it is that in these type of lockdown environments, you start thinking, you get paranoid. You're not thinking normally, you know. So you start thinking that when someone's doing something that's annoying to you, your mind starts telling you that they're doing this on purpose for the sake of annoying you. So somehow or another, apparently he got it into his mind that I was deliberately tormenting him, you know. So one day he like just starts banging on the sink, which is like resonating up into my room, you know. So which is a signal to blow the water out of your sink so that you can talk to the dude, you know, who's banging. But he's banging like with anger, you know, and hostility. So I blow the water out and I'm like, Assalamu alaikum. And he's like, we really hadn't talked much, you know, because like I say, he's on another tier, so we didn't used to see each other. We would go out at recreation at a different time than they would. So he's like, where did you learn your Islam? And I'm like, well, Jafar Sheikh Idris, Ali Tamimi, you know, Muhammad Nur Abdullah. And he's like, well, whoever taught you Islam didn't teach you not to waste water. You're wasting water. You're bothering me. You're that. And I'm like, look, Sheikh, you are the last one that I want to irritate. You know, I said, I apologize. You know, it's my fault. I'm going to try to do better. And, you know, I really actually, you know, I'm very regretful and, you know, and may Allah reward you and bless you and make things easy for you. And, you know, all this, man, I'm just like totally like abjectly, you know, apologizing. Because really, this is Jamil Al-Amin, you know, I mean, yeah. I don't want to make him mad. So, anyway, man, so okay, my shower, the dang valve, okay, that day, like an hour later, I go in to take a shower. The valve in the shower gets stuck. Okay, so the shower is supposed to run like only for like a minute, and then it automatically cuts off, and you got to push a button and it'll start again. And so that way, you know, the water doesn't get wasted. Well, this thing gets stuck, so the water is running at this point. At a certain point, it's been running for like 12 hours. Okay, so this is just after Jamil Al-Amin yells at me for. So I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna want to kill me, you know. And so, man, he's banging and banging, and I'm like sitting there laying in bed like this water is running, and I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And actually, the officers came, like the maintenance people came and were crawling around in the pipes, you know, like in the trying to, and not the pipes, but in what they call the pipe chase, which is like an area between the cells where all the pipes are. So they're in there like, man, trying to turn the damn thing off, and they can't get it off, you know? And I'm like, you know, and so anyway, I heard from that after that he was so furious with me and that he would talk about it. He would tell people, man, I hate that guy up there and this and that.
Classic warrior, man.
It's kind of like I got Jamila hating me. Anyway,
classic warrior. Just somehow or another, it's your fault.
I don't want to keep. Yeah, I know. I don't want to keep. We really have gotten pretty far, but basically, I think I kind of got through most of the interesting stuff, except to say that when I got to the somehow or another, I convinced the ADX administration that I'm not a bad guy, and the reason I was able to do that is because I was like unusually respectful to the staff compared to the other people who were like murderers of staff, you know. Yeah. So like me, I'm just like a normal. I mean, I'm trying to be the same person that I am, you know, everywhere I go, you know. So I'm treating these people with respect, and I'm treating them like I would want to be treated. So for them, at first they thought I was trying to manipulate them or, you know, whatever, because they take that in a weird way, you know. But eventually they figure out that really I don't need to be in ADX, you know. So the staff at ADX, I actually got sent to ADX by the central office, you know, by the higher ups, not by, you know. So ADX they just take whoever's, you know, sent to them. So, but now once I'm sent to them, they're able to like make their own determination and recommendations as to whether I should still be there or not. So they ultimately recommend that I be sent to the step down program. So the step down program is you go and it's a unit and you come out of your cell with the people on your tier. You're able to come out of your cell for about, you know, 4 hours a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. It's like 2 hours inside and then 2 hours outside in like a little recreation area, but it's like just like a, you know, like a little square that you walk around. But now you're at least able to walk around, and you're able to walk around without being in a cage and, you know, and stuff like that. And the rest of the day you have to be in your cell, but you do come out for those 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. The problem with it is that you're coming out with other people who are among the most violent, psychopathic people in the Bureau of Prisons. You know, I mean, this is the cream of the crop. Of these are not people who are violent because they're soldiers, although there are people like that, you know, soldiers for their gang. There are people who are violent because they're soldiers for their gang. There are people who are violent because they like to hurt people, you know. And the other thing is that you're walking into a situation, there's so much politics. You know, I was telling you about the politics in the media. Well, every security level that you go up, the politics are exponentially more complicated. So, and the stakes are exponentially higher. It's life or death. Okay. So, and everyone's making knives. They're making knives out of, one of the ways they used to make, like, the one of the easiest ways to make knives in ADX even was the spray bottle. You get a spray bottle once a week that has like some kind of like cleaner, disinfectant or something like that in it. Well, the spray bottle has a spring in it, and this spring is made out of really hard metal. And to cut metal, any metal that is harder than another metal will cut that softer metal. Even if the harder metal is small in the size of a spring, and the metal that's harder is like bigger and a bigger piece or whatever, but that small that metal that's harder will cut the smaller metal. So the harder metal, the softer metal, excuse me. So what they'll do is they'll take that spring out, flatten it out, sharpen it on the floor of the cell, which is like, you know, concrete. And then they'll use that and they'll go on to the only metal in the whole cell, which is a light fixture. So they'll go onto this light fixture, and it's thin metal, and they'll cut a slice off of that light fixture. And then what they'll do is, before they do that, they'll take like a straight edge, and they'll draw that straight edge all the way along the light fixture so that when they cut that thing off, you can't really look by telling at it that it's like not jagged or anything. It's like, you know, very professionally and cleanly cut. And they'll cut that off, and they'll make knives out of this metal. And then they'll, then the spray bottle will be broken. They'll just say, "Oh, the spray bottle broken," something like that. You know, and the officers won't know. And so, dudes make knives like that. They make knives. They'll take another way they make knives is they'll take plastic bottles, like shampoo bottles and stuff, and they'll make a fire out of the cord that's going to the TV. They'll make a little cut in the cord, and they'll short it out by attaching like taking a stapler or something and touching the stapler to it. They'll get a big zap of electricity, and they'll set some toilet paper on fire, and then make a little fire, and they'll melt down the plastic bottle into the shape of a knife, and then they'll dunk it in water real fast to make it hardens it, and then they'll sharpen that on the floor, and they'll make plastic knives out of that, which are, you know, they're not ideal, but they'll definitely put a hole in you. And so this is what people are doing. They do it, you do that, you have to do that when you get there. Okay. So if you don't do that, you're like basically the only guy in a nuclear club, without the nuclear weapons. You know what I mean? So, anyway, so what was I saying was, so these dudes are running around that you're forced to deal with them. And also, like, you don't know what situation you just walked into. Like, they send you to the step down. You come out into the step down. You don't know that just 3 days ago, a Mexican stabbed a white dude. And now a white dude is expected to stab a Mexican dude, But the Mexican dudes see you. You don't know anything about it. You don't care anything about it. Or that's just exactly the way someone would act who did know about it and who did care about it and is planning on stealthily stabbing a Mexican dude. Wow. So the Mexican dude might think, well, I got to stab that dude before he stabs me, and layers and layers of this. And there's, okay, so for example, there was an Italian dude. I said, man, I'm not even going to talk to the dude because he's running tickets. He's basically like gambling and stuff. He's like the head, running the gambling and stuff like that. I'm going to like keep that guy at arm's length, so that I don't get in any trouble because this dude's trouble, right? Well, he took that offensively because I'm white. And he thinks that the Italians in prison have like a complex. They think that because the white guys don't consider them white. So he's like, oh, he's not talking to me because he thinks I'm not white. So now he's got a beef with me. And he drinks a lot. So that makes his like judgment off. And so now he's getting in my face and stuff like this. So now what do? I got to do something. Do I do something to this dude to put? I mean, it's just so crazy. So anyway, there were two vicious stabbings while I was in there, like just absolute like butcheries. Anyway, alhamdulillah, I made it out of there, and they transferred me to the CMU at Marion, Illinois, which is a different CMU. And by the time I got there, I was with a bunch of crazy Takfiri guys who had come into prison since there weren't any Takfiri guys that I was with. But now at this point, there was a bunch of Takfiri dudes. There was a bunch of brothers from the First World Trade Center case that were, not the guys with life sentences, but some of the guys who had like the 25-year sentences.
Yeah, I remember you talked about one of the Takfiri guys in the last show we had with you.
Yeah, these Takfiri guys are a huge problem because so many of them are like, a little bit off, a little bit, sure. A little bit, maybe just not quite all there when it comes to decision making. A lot of them are people who suffered a lot of like maybe bullying and stuff in their lives, and so they've found this ideology to be something that's like kind of redeeming for them and empowering, and so it means more to them than just it becomes like part of making redeeming them and giving them some kind of self-confidence or whatever. So you're not even when you're talking with them and debating, you're not even debating about was Ibn Taymiyyah understood correctly to be saying this or that, and but whatever. What is irja? What are madkhalis? They don't even. They talk in those terms, but they're not. That's not what they're really talking about. Right. They're talking about justifications for lying, justifications for violence, justification. These are all things that are more primal. Those type of conversations about ideology really for them are just technical. And,
right. So moving along, when did you realize you were getting out? Like, when did that happen? So, like, you just got out in early 2017, right? But when did that kind of materialize for you when you were in prison?
Yeah, well, what happened is that, as I was telling you, we had a situation going on with this 924C charge. Is 924C legal or not legal? Is its definition of crime of violence? Does it make sense, or does it is it unconstitutional? Well, I was arguing very early on that there was something wrong with that definition, and as it turned out, the Supreme Court issued a decision that said that a very similarly worded statute, it's very similar to 924C, the gun statute, was unconstitutional. So when I saw that, I said, oh, well, that's kind of like 924C. And so I started filing stuff on that. I filed a habeas corpus motion. And then the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in California issued an opinion, and the case is called Dimaya versus Lynch. And they issued an opinion saying that actually the same argument that I was making was correct, that this is an unconstitutional definition. They were saying that it was unconstitutionally vague and it's impossible to know what an actual crime of violence is. So when I saw that, I filed my, made an addition to my habeas corpus thing with my judge saying, oh, look, the Ninth Circuit just said that. So the government filed their opposition, said the Ninth Circuit is wrong. Well, it turned out that this Ninth Circuit case is now in front of the Supreme Court. And all my co-defendants, Saifullah, Masood, they filed similar motions. They have law schools representing them. I have Georgetown Law University representing me. We all filed these motions. Ali Tamimi has not filed a motion on this, but he has the exact same conviction that we do under these gun charges. So he, inshallah, will be benefiting from it. I think his lawyers are just waiting to see how it plays out for us. So this case is scheduled to be argued in front of the Supreme Court next session, probably in the fall sometime. And so we hope that they'll agree with the Ninth Circuit that this law is unconstitutional and will cause everyone to be released. So that's with respect to that's how I thought I was going to get out. I thought I was going to get out on the basis of this constitutional argument. Okay, so in about 2015, 16, it started dawning on me that my release date was coming up, and that I was going to go out to my family, and now also the Bureau of Prisons, my lawsuit succeeded in getting them to take the terrorism designation off me. Actually, I still had the terrorism designation, but they reduced it from what they call a security threat group 1 to a security threat group 2. Security threat group 1 is like the highest threat, and then they removed it down to like a 2 on the basis of the fact that I had been through the CMU process, I'd been through the ADX process, and now I had demonstrated that I wasn't a bomb throwing fanatic or anything like that. I was just a guy trying to get home to his family. And so they let me go to a medium, and I went to a medium in Virginia, Petersburg. And then I did my programming. They want to see you that you're doing all the stuff that they want you to do, like going to anger management classes, stuff like that, having a job. So I did all that. And then they moved me to the low. So now I'm at Petersburg low. I'm at a low security. I'm very close to my family. I'm starting to have all these family visits now. I'm getting more involved in my kids' lives. And that was a way of that transition from ADX to the CMU to a medium to a low was helping me to decompress and start because the prisoners who are in low security prisons are way more like normal people, than people in high security. These are people who are going home, or they maybe just came to prison and they've only got 2-3 month sentences a year at most. So these are people who are concerned about getting home, So I'm talking. This is the kind of society that I'm in right now, and there's not as much of that Nazis, racism, and all that crap. Everyone's just trying to go home. So I, alhamdulillah, was able to do a lot more parenting, because I'm seeing my kids. I've got contact visits again. My mother, unfortunately, passed away. She passed away, but I was able to see her 2 more times before she died, after coming from the CMU and to Virginia. And so I saw my the relationship with my ex-wife is irreparable. We've both moved on with our lives, but we're very good friends, and we're very cooperative when it comes to parenting. And I have all the respect in the world for her and how she raised these children, as a single mother. And so I've been, it's strengthening that relationship with her, that parenting relationship with her. I settled, actually, I told you about my lawsuit. I settled with the BOP for $12,000. My lawsuit was on the basis of them putting me in ADX and putting me in the CMU without a hearing, without due process, and on the basis of some false information. So I had my lawyers from Georgetown negotiated a settlement where they sent me to Petersburg and paid me $12,000, and so I took the $12,000 and bought laptops for my oldest 2 kids. I paid for my daughter's tuition at an Islamic school, and bought them a bunch of books and stuff. And, and so I like through that, I was kind of now able to be more like a father because, alhamdulillah, this lawsuit was successful. I had some money to spend on them. And, I started it started becoming real to me that I was getting out. And so in the months leading and weeks leading up to my release, I was walking around like I wasn't even in prison anymore. Like my body was in prison, but my mind was actually outside, and it's really surreal. I can't even explain it. They came and, the day came and they called me to the office and, gave me gave me my street clothes, like a pair of like really horrible, clothes, it was like just the worst, like really crummy, no off-brand jeans and white polo shirt and stuff like this. But it was still like, not khaki uniform. And I'm waiting in the waiting room of the prison, and now the guards are talking to me totally different than they were like just moments ago. They're like, oh, okay, Mr. Royer, all right. You have a, now they're not talking to me like a inmate, anymore. They're talking to me like a real human being, and my dad came and I came out and there was my daughters and my sons, and my daughter was filming me, and I was walking in the parking lot with my box of, books and papers and stuff. And
are they all teenagers now?
They're all teenagers. Yeah. And, it was a surreal experience. It was very surreal. And I thought I would have a hard time like adjusting, but really most of my adjusting was done, I think, in moving from, ADX, all that stuff through the lower security prisons. And that low, that time at the low was really when I got back into normal functioning, mode of society, And so, yeah, that's how it is, man. That's what happened.
So as far as your kid, like, I know it was really tough for your kids. So sometimes it seems like they went sometimes years without seeing you. Did you feel like they were upset at you, or did they understand kind of what went down?
I had a dream when I was in Alexandria jail in 2003. I had a dream that my kids came to visit me in our van. We had a white van at the time. So they were in the white van, and the van pulled up, and they let me out of the jail just to go talk to them, which of course they don't do, but in my dream they did. So I got out of the van. I walked out of the jail, and the van opened up, and I knelt down in front of them, and I said to them, listen, kids, I said, they're offering me to go home right now if I betray, people. But I can't do that, So I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm not going to see you for a long time, and I wanted to tell you why. And in my dream, my daughter Fatima says to me, "That's okay, Baba, we understand." And then, I shut the door of the van, and the van kind of pulled away, And that's really, I told my daughter that dream, I told her, and I hadn't gotten a chance to tell her about that dream. So I told her that, the other day, I said, Fatima, I didn't ever tell you about this dream, but I had this dream, and I told her about it. And she says, that's kind of how it was.
Yeah.
So they,
Did they listen to the first episode that we did with you?
No, I don't think so, because for them, they kind of lived it already, sort of, so, but they didn't really know, I think, everything that I went through, because to them, it's like, when I'm in prison, and when I see them, when they would come and visit me or I would talk to them on the phone, the last thing I really want to do is talk to them about prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I talk to them about their lives and stuff like that. And so I don't think they really ever knew, all the crazy, drama I was going through and stuff. But my kids are, for a long time, I kind of felt like I was living in the past. I was like living as I was living like in my mind, there's still like a little Fatima, little Hamza, little Aisha, little Hassan, like running around, somewhere out there in the world, you know what I mean? And like, I'm seeing these big teenage kids, you know what I mean? But, there's still like these other kids somewhere, Yeah. But the reality, and I can't like explain why it just seemed like that's just kind of how, like how I was, like my mind was interpreting it, But those, those little kids were like more real to me almost than like these adults, or like adolescents. But like in my mind, those kids, little kids have faded, and now like these adolescents are my real kids. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah.
As far as your dad, I know you're living with your dad right now, and I remember when we were hanging out last weekend. You were telling me about the story how when you first converted, the van picked you, Amir Ali's van picked you up, and you went to New Mexico. Did you ever feel like your dad blamed Islam for the issues you had, or was he out? Never. Okay, alhamdulillah. So it's always been like understanding. Okay. I think the last thing I wanted to ask you actually is, so you are back in the workforce, correct?
Yeah.
A lot of times, I think if I didn't ask this question, a lot of our listeners would be kind of upset with us.
Yes.
There's always talk about the prison industrial complex, and as a white American, do you feel like you benefited from your race as far as how you progressed through the system and even gaining gainful employment after being released?
Well, here the thing about it is that what is, I think, not obvious at first unless you've actually walked in someone else's shoes, which is that I'm considered to be more dangerous and more despicable than an Arab or an African American, Muslim, because I'm someone who is a renegade to many people in their minds. I'm a traitor, So I received way worse treatment than, for example, the Arab guy who had a terrorism case that was with me at Allenwood, in Pennsylvania, and I was singled out for special, evil treatment by some people, in the prison system. Not all of them, but and especially other inmates. For other inmates, like, they don't care if they see an Arab or a black guy as a Muslim. To them, that's what they are. That's what they do. That's who they are. But for them, I was a traitor. So I actually got much worse treatment than anyone, I think, that had not been of my particular race. And then on the other hand, I get the thing of like, oh, you're not a real Muslim, you're this, there's some sense of that, sometimes. So in a way, like, I kind of like have this like estrangement, from both of my peoples, the white people and the Muslim people. For both of them, they have kind of weird feelings towards me, So, that's how it is, man.
Well, Ismail, I know a lot of our listeners will continue to engage with you on Twitter.
Sure.
I know a lot of you guys will have more questions. Ismail's an open book. As you guys can tell, he's really forthcoming and always, willing to talk to you about anything that's on your mind. So feel free to reach out to him on Twitter. His Twitter handle will be in the description.
Yeah. Do you have any speaking engagements coming up? I know you had that thing at USC. Do you have anything else coming up?
Thing at USC, and not really. I've been doing a few classes here and there. I was invited to do, believe it or not, classes on like what is ISIS and stuff like that. Not CVE type stuff, but just more academic, sure, university type things.
Yeah.
And so it's nothing big, just kind of small scale things like that.
And you're back at Darul. Are you back? Is Darul Hijra still your local masjid?
Yeah, I go there. I go there, and Mustafa Center in Springfield. So both of those places I go. Yeah.
Okay.
Darul Hijra is Darul Hijra is the place I love to hate. You know what I mean? That'll always be my backyard.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, it was a pleasure reconnecting with you. First of all, last week, and then we were up till 3:30 a.m. or something, eating Turkish sweets and drinking coffee, and whatnot. But it was worth it. I'd love to make another trip out to DC and just, maybe Sim can join me this time.
Yeah, definitely, inshallah.
But,
that'd be beautiful. That was one of the most interesting conversations. And Rashid Dar is a very deep character, and all you guys are. So it's really, having gotten out of prison, my entire social structure is essentially gone. Most of my friends are either in prison or, having been in my case, or they've moved on with their lives. I'm not married anymore, So my whole whole structure is gone. So like to find like people that I can vibe with and and hang out with was really nice and a blessing. Mashallah.
So he's our most eligible bachelor as well. So any of your sisters out there, Ismail Royer, he's quite the catch.
And I've been working out for the past 13 and a half years. So
yeah, I think I've seen some of your squats on. I forgot you had some video on Twitter or something. You were doing like Olympic lifts. I saw. So all right, Jazakallah khair, Ismail. We're at over 3.5 hours. Yeah. So I think we beat the last show. But
man, I'm so sorry for being tedious, brother.
No. I think people love this stuff. So it's always really interesting, and all these like gems with. And I had no idea that Sheikh Ali had a chance to get out in the near future. So that's welcome news. And your opinion is I don't know, you're not a lawyer here, but it seems like there's glad tidings there from what you can gather.
Here's the really interesting thing about that. They actually had oral argument last session, but there were only 8 judges because remember Scalia passed away. Right. And Scalia was the guy who authored the opinion that we are basing our whole argument on. So he died, you know what I mean? Oh. And so we're sitting around like kind of like upset about it. Me and my lawyers were like, man, Scalia was the guy we were counting on to bring us home on this case, right? Well, guess what? They get Gorsuch. And Gorsuch, even though people are complaining about Gorsuch is actually in the mold of Scalia, right. Philosophically. So we feel like Gorsuch is actually likely to go along the way of Scalia. And remember that they, as I told you, they actually had oral arguments in this case last session. And me and my daughter and my lawyers, we all went to it. And that was my first time seeing oral arguments in the Supreme Court. So we went to go watch it. And the analysis is, okay, so what happened is they threw out the whole oral arguments and they said, we're going to do re-argument with Gorsuch. And the analysis is that they did that because they were tied 4-4. If they hadn't been tied 4-4, they would have issued an opinion. But they were tied 4-4, so they're doing an argument again with Gorsuch for him to break the tie. So we feel like Gorsuch is on our side on this one, and we're hopeful, inshallah.
Inshallah, and everyone make dua for Sheikh Ali's release,
and
others
as well.
Yeah, and the brothers Masood and Saifullah, inshallah.
And so Ibrahim's out and whatnot.
Ibrahim is, I believe he should be out by now, but the thing is, if he's not out now, he's going to be out very soon, but he's going to be deported. And he's Yemeni, and we don't know what they're going to do with him because he's Yemeni. So I don't think they're sending people back to Yemen. So I don't know what they're going to do with him, but he's a beautiful brother, and everyone loves him. In our area, in our case, and in our circle, So anyway, inshallah, Allah keeps him safe.
I mean, all right. With that being said, we're going to wrap this one up. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at themadmamluks@gmail.com. You can also follow us, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter. We're on Instagram, and you can engage us in all of those forums. For our special guest, Ismail Royer, and for my co-host, Sim, this is Mahin signing off for the Mad Mamluks. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah.